Hello and welcome to the Literary Lair, and welcome back to Halloween in the Lair. So, for the past 2 years, I've looked at Goosebumps stories for Halloween, and I actually found the book this year. But I wanted to do something else. I've looked at a lot of classic horror authors, Bram Stoker, Mary Shelley, Robert Louis Stevenson, R.L. Stine, but there is one author that I've neglected all these years. H.P. Lovecraft. H.P. Lovecraft went largely unrecognized during his life, and his works only got acclaim after his death, as is the case with many classic authors. So, where should I start with Lovecraft? Well, I'm not sure if this is the right place to start, but it is his most well-known work, The Call of Cthulhu, which is a short story of Lovecraft's that was first published in the pulp magazine Weird Tales in 1928. Without further ado, let's get to the review. No cover, since the original was published in a magazine whose cover didn't show any Cthulhu imagery, so let's just get straight into it. The story opens up in Chapter 1, The Horror in Clay, with Francis Wayland Thurston, who is looking over his granduncle's notes after his untimely death when he was accosted by and I am quoting the story verbatim here, a nautical-looking Negro. What the hell is that supposed to mean? Is it a guy in a scuba suit or something? I mean, tell me in the comments what that's supposed to mean, because my research online has proved inconclusive, and I'm a little confused here. A small statue was found with the papers, with a bunch of shapes carved into it, which resemble some weird combination of human, an octopus, and a dragon, which inspires Thurston to search out the artist of the statue, and finds more writings that reference the titular Cthulhu, and a city called Relay. Thurston's uncle's papers also report outbreaks of strange mental illnesses and cult activity around the world. The second chapter, The Tale of Inspector Legrasse, talks about the first time that Thurston's uncle, Professor Angel, heard about Cthulhu. This chapter takes place in 1908, which is approximately 20 years prior to Chapter 1. At a meeting for the American Archaeological Society, a New Orleans police officer named John Legrasse asks the archaeologists assembled there to identify a statuette, which has a similar description to the one that Thurston found in the notes that the cops had confiscated during a raid on a supposed voodoo meeting. Legrasse came to have the statue when a year previously he had led a search party to look for several women and children who had disappeared from a squatter community, finding their bodies being used in a ritual where roughly 100 men were standing around the bodies while chanting this. I'm not even going to attempt to pronounce that, since I could barely pronounce Ode Munster last week, and it took me several tries to pronounce Compsognathus in the Jurassic Park video. Trust me, it's better if I don't try. Anyway, the cops ended up killing 5 of the men and arresting 47 others and interrogated them. They asked about the statue, and the prisoners told Legrasse that it was the Great Cthulhu, and translate the phrase they were chanting, which means, in his house at Relay, dead Cthulhu waits dreaming. One of the cultists, Old Castro, named that because they replaced him with Sarek Chalk when he wanted to focus on school, but he ended up coming back during Season 8, gives them some info, and tells them a relevant passage from the Necronomicon. That is, not dead which can eternal lie, and with strange aeons even death may die. At the meeting, most of the archaeologists can't make heads or tails of the statuette, but one man, William Channing Webb, says that he had once encountered a cult that seemed to worship the same Cthulhu stuff as the cult Legrasse had arrested. The third chapter, The Madness of the Sea, starts out with Thurston extending his search into the Cthulhu cult past what his uncle had discovered. He stumbles upon an article from the Sydney Bulletin, an Australian newspaper from 1925, that had a story about a derelict ship being discovered in the Pacific with only one survivor, the second mate, Gustav Johansen. According to the story, his ship, the Emma, was attacked by a heavily armed yacht named Alert, crewed by an evil New Zealander crew, and although the Emma perished, the survivors boarded and took over the Alert, taking it to a nearby island where the maps say there shouldn't be an island. Most of the crew, save for Johansen, died on that island, and he's pretty hush-hush about the exact circumstances of their deaths. Thurston realizes that the Alert's crew was another Cthulhu cult sect, and goes to Australia to investigate, where he sees a familiar-looking octopus dragon statue. He goes to find the lone survivor, only to learn that he had died suddenly after an encounter with 2 Indian sailors. Johansen's widow, however, does give Thurston a manuscript that he had left behind, which explains that what they found on the island, which wasn't inhabited by a smoke monster, but rather was the lost city of Relay. The sailors explored the city, but ended up opening a portal that began to release a thing, Cthulhu, who is a giant, and Johansen flees to the yacht. When Cthulhu tries to pursue him, he rams the yacht into Cthulhu's head, which bursts, but soon begins reforming as Johansen flees. Thurston finishes the manuscript and ends his own story as he realizes that he'll probably suffer the same fate as Angel and Johansen, sudden unexplained death, and he also supposes that Cthulhu was most likely dragged back down with the city while healing himself, so the world is safe. For now. And the story ends. And that was The Call of Cthulhu. Was it good? Yeah, it's a pretty scary story, and not in the traditional sense. Sure, vampires and monsters are scary, but this is some eldritch abomination that's part man, part octopus, and part dragon, and that's a pretty sweet combination. Lovecraft himself reportedly hated this one, and it was actually rejected from the magazine at first, before one of Lovecraft's friends at the magazine lied to his boss to get it published. But hey, it kicked off an entire shared universe, and that's pretty awesome. It was a bit of a slog to get through for me, but hey, maybe you'll have a better time with it. I highly recommend it if you like stuff like this. And that's all the time we have for today. If you'd like to see more of the Literary Lair, you can hit that subscribe button, and if you have any comments or complaints about the video, or want to tell me what the hell a nautical-looking Negro is, you can put those in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this video, show it to your friends and share it around the internet. And maybe consider supporting the show on Patreon. Happy Halloween, and I will see you next time. At the meeting for the American Archaeological Society, a New Orleans police officer named John LaGrasse asks the archaeologists. I like that. Oh man, my archaeology professor's not gonna like that I said that.